All right, so ever picture yourself running the show on a car assembly line?
Really taking charge.
Today, we're diving deep into what it really takes to be a motor vehicle assembly supervisor.
Getting into the nitty-gritty.
And we're going way beyond those vague job postings you see online, all thanks to insights from RoleCatcher.
Definitely a role with more layers than people might expect.
More than meets the eye, huh?
It's not just about keeping the line moving, it's leadership, it's problem solving, and it's navigating an industry that's changing crazy fast.
So let's break it down then. What does a motor vehicle assembly supervisor actually do all day?
Yeah, what's a typical day look like?
Because I'm picturing clipboards and yelling, faster, faster.
Right, less drill sergeant, more like a conductor.
Okay, I like that.
Leading an orchestra, except your orchestra is a team of assembly workers, and the music. A perfectly put together car.
So you're responsible for every little thing happening on that line.
You've got to coordinate every activity, make sure everyone's working together smoothly to hit those production targets.
You are the maestro of machinery.
In a way, yeah.
But I'm seeing a lot about cost reduction, productivity. That sounds like, I don't know, business analysis more than hands-on supervising.
It's a bit of both, honestly. See, a good supervisor, they don't just react to problems after they happen.
Right, gotta stay ahead of it.
They're analyzing production reports, figuring out where the bottlenecks are, constantly finding ways to do things better and faster.
So it's about making the whole system smarter.
Exactly. Could mean suggesting new equipment, tweaking the assembly process, even weighing in on hiring decisions.
Data and wrenches. Didn't see that combo coming.
It's a lot to juggle.
No wonder RoleCatcher highlights a whole bunch of skills that are crucial for success.
For sure.
Got to be more than just knowing how to tighten a bolt, right?
Right. Leadership, communication, those are a given. But you need sharp analytical thinking to make sense of all that data. Gotta have serious problem-solving skills for when those unexpected snags pop up.
Because they always do.
Oh, they do. And of course, being a stickler for safety regulations, can't forget about that.
Makes sense with all that heavy machinery and everything else.
Exactly. Safety first.
But there's one thing mentioned that surprised me reading comprehension. I mean, how does that play into a noisy, hands-on factory floor?
That's a great question, and it shows why you got to dig into the nuances of a role. A motor vehicle assembly supervisor, they have to be fluent in company policies, work instructions, safety protocols.
Oh, so it's like a whole other language you got to learn.
It is. To keep things running smoothly, they even have to decipher those equipment manuals, the ones...
Oh, I've seen those.
Yes,
Dense.
sir. Huh.
So it's not just what you can do, it's what you can process up here.
You got it. And that ability to learn quickly, that's key, especially when you consider the typical career path for someone in this role.
Okay, so how does someone actually work their way up to becoming a supervisor?
Well, it often starts with an entry-level position, like a motor vehicle assembly worker.
Starting from the ground up.
That's where you get your hands dirty, learning the ropes from colleagues, the people who've been there, done that.
So it's like an apprenticeship almost. You're not just thrown into the deep end right away.
Right. You're learning the basics of assembling vehicle components, understanding quality control, getting used to the rhythm of that production line.
Got to feel that flow.
Exactly. And as you gain experience, you might move up to a junior motor vehicle assembly technician.
Okay, so you're climbing that ladder.
Responsibilities grow, you're operating machinery, troubleshooting issues, maybe even helping train newer workers.
So you're building your technical skills, but you're also dipping your toes into leadership.
Exactly. And that's key for preparing for that jump to supervisor.
What does that transition actually look like?
According to RoleCatcher, it often involves taking on more responsibility in a few key areas. Think scheduling, diving deep into those production reports we mentioned, becoming that crucial link between the assembly line and other departments.
So you're not just focused on your own tasks anymore.
Nope. You're thinking of the whole orchestra.
I like that analogy. So what would you say a typical day looks like for a supervisor then?
All right, imagine this. You start by reviewing reports from the previous shift. Notice a bottleneck at a particular station, so you adjust the schedule to keep things moving.
Firefighting already.
Later on, you're doing a safety inspection, making sure everyone's following protocol. Then you're meeting with someone from engineering to discuss a design change and how it'll impact assembly. And throughout the day, you're training new employees, mentoring your team, and putting out any fires that pop up.
Wow, so you've got your hands full. Managing people, production, quality, and safety. It sounds intense.
It can be, for sure.
But also incredibly rewarding to be at the heart of such a complex industry.
Absolutely. There's a lot of pride that comes with it.
Now, speaking of rewards, What about the financial side?
Money stuff.
Everyone wants to know.
RoleCatcher actually highlights good salary as a definite perk of this career path. Plus, there's potential for bonuses and incentives, especially for those supervisors who consistently exceed targets without sacrificing quality or safety, of course.
So there's opportunity for financial growth alongside career advancement.
That's the idea.
Now, what about job security?
That's a big one.
The automotive industry has its ups and downs,
It does.
and automation seems to be changing everything these days.
It is a changing landscape.
So is this even a safe career path?
That's a valid concern for sure. But interestingly enough, RoleCatcher specifically mentions job stability as an advantage of being a motor vehicle assembly supervisor.
So even with more robots and automation, this role is still in high demand, huh?
Seems that way, yeah.
But how does all this new tech actually change things for a motor vehicle assembly supervisor?
That takes us right to the future of manufacturing, and it's something RoleCatcher really gets into. You're right, automation is changing the game.
Sure.
More robots on assembly lines means tasks that used to be done by hand are now automated.
So you'd think that would make the supervisor less important, right?
You'd think so, but it's kind of the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. As technology gets more complex, you need someone who understands the robots and the people working with them.
Makes sense.
So supervisors now need to be good at programming those robots, troubleshooting any software glitches,
Oh, so there's a whole other layer of tech skills now.
and making sense of all the data coming from these automated systems.
So it's like a whole new skill set on top of the traditional role? It's not just about managing people, it's managing this whole dance between humans and machines.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the importance of continuous learning.
Right, gotta stay updated.
RoleCatcher really emphasizes that staying current on industry trends and technologies is absolutely crucial in this line of work.
Makes sense, you can't exactly lead if you're stuck in the past. But how can someone actually stay ahead of the curve when things are changing so rapidly?
Good question. And RoleCatcher actually has some really practical suggestions. Attending industry conferences and trade shows is great for networking, seeing the latest tech in action.
Getting your hands dirty, so to speak.
Exactly. They also recommend subscribing to industry publications, maybe even joining online forums.
So you can chat with other people in the field?
Yeah, discuss trends, share knowledge, that kind of thing.
So it's not just what you know, it's who you know.
It's about having your finger on the pulse of the industry.
Speaking of keeping your finger on the pulse, we should probably talk about the interview process for those aspiring supervisors out there.
The moment of truth.
But before we do, what are some of the downsides to this career path?
The elephant in the room.
RoleCatcher does mention a few.
They do, and it's good to be realistic. This job isn't for everyone.
For sure.
The sources point out that it can be physically demanding,
Yeah, I can imagine.
often requiring you to be on your feet for long hours
Right, factory floor life.
in a fast-paced and potentially noisy environment.
And those long hours aren't just a one-time thing, are they?
Not really, no. Shift work and overtime are definitely part of the deal.
So not exactly your typical 9 to 5.
Nope. That kind of schedule, it doesn't work for everyone, and it can make work-life balance a bit of a challenge.
Definitely something to consider.
RoleCatcher also mentions the potential for high stress levels, especially with those tight deadlines.
Right, gotta keep that line moving.
Unexpected problems always seem to pop up on the line, too. And then there's the responsibility of managing a whole team.
Yeah, that's a lot to handle. So it sounds like you'd need a certain personality type to really thrive in that kind of environment.
I think so.
Someone who's resilient,
Definitely.
can think clearly under pressure,
Important.
and really genuinely enjoys solving problems on the fly.
Absolutely. You've got to be able to roll with the punches.
So it's important to think about your own work style, what you actually enjoy doing.
Couldn't agree more.
Do you like that fast-paced, hands-on environment?
Yeah, are you a people person?
Do you get a kick out of leading and motivating others?
Does tackling a tough challenge get you fired up?
Those are all things to consider before jumping into this line of work.
For sure. Think long and hard about it.
Okay, but now for the people who've weighed the pros and cons and are ready to go for it, let's talk interviews.
All right, let's do it.
What should someone expect? What should they be prepared for when interviewing for a motor vehicle assembly supervisor role?
First and foremost, you've got to be ready to show off those core skills we've been talking about.
Okay, so leadership, communication, problem solving.
Those are non-negotiables for any interviewer.
That makes sense. But it's easy to say you have those skills. How do you actually show it in an interview?
That's where those behavioral questions come into play. Be ready to answer questions about specific situations you've been in and how you handled them. Things you've done in the past that show you've got what it takes.
Okay, so give me an example.
For example, they might ask you to describe a time when you had to motivate your team to meet a challenging deadline,
Okay, so a real-life example.
or how you resolved a conflict between two team members, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
So it's about using those real-life experiences to back up your claims.
Exactly. It's one thing to say you're a great leader, it's another thing to actually prove it.
Now, what about technical expertise? How important is it to have specific industry knowledge or those certifications?
That can vary depending on the company, the specific role, but a solid understanding of those motor vehicle assembly processes is always going to be valuable.
Right. Got to know your stuff.
Be prepared to answer questions about lean manufacturing principles,
Which is all about.
which focuses on maximizing efficiency and minimizing waste.
Gotcha.
Quality control procedures, making sure those vehicles meet the highest standards, and of course, those all-important safety regulations.
Right. Safety first. It all goes back to what we were saying about reading comprehension.
Exactly.
You need to be able to speak the language of the industry.
You got it.
Speaking of, RoleCatcher actually provides some sample interview questions specifically for this role.
Oh, that's helpful.
I want to run through a couple.
Let's do it.
Okay, so one that jumps out is, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in motor vehicle assembly?
Good one.
We've kind of touched on this, but it's clearly something employers value.
They're looking for someone who's proactive, passionate about their own professional development.
Exactly. And this is your chance to really highlight those conferences you've attended,
The publications you read.
those online forums you participate in, all that good stuff.
Show them you're invested in staying ahead of the curve.
Okay, what's another one?
Another call they have is, how do you prioritize tasks and manage your time effectively when you're supervising a team of assembly workers?
Ah, the million-dollar question.
Right. It's all about showing you can handle a million things at once.
That's the job, right?
Yeah.
So how would you answer that one?
You could talk about your experience with scheduling software,
Your approach to delegating? Love it.
or how you deal with those inevitable curveballs without completely losing sight of the bigger picture.
It's all about connecting the dots for them.
Exactly. Show them you understand the job and, more importantly, that you have a system.
Love it. Now, RoleCatcher also emphasizes those certifications.
They can be a game changer for sure.
They specifically mention a few that could give your resume a boost.
Like, fill me in.
Things like Six Sigma, Green Belt,
Classic.
Certified Production and Inventory Management, CPIM,
Very nice.
or Certified Supply Chain Professional, CSCP.
Those are some serious credentials.
It's like leveling up your skills in a video game.
I like that.
You're showing potential employers that you're serious, you're committed to this.
Absolutely. And remember, the automotive industry, it never really sits still.
Always changing.
What's cutting edge today is standard practice tomorrow, you know.
For sure.
The key is to never stop learning, never stop growing.
Always learning, always adapting. That's the name of the game. We've talked a lot about what it takes to become a motor vehicle assembly supervisor. But what about the long game?
Yeah, where do you go from there?
Say you've mastered the art of the assembly line. What does career progression look like? What's next?
Well, that's where those leadership skills, that strategic thinking, it really becomes crucial.
Okay, so you're moving up in the world.
RoleCatcher actually maps out a potential path to becoming a senior motor vehicle assembly manager.
Oh, senior management. Very nice.
In that role, you're not just overseeing a single line or a single team. You might be responsible for a whole department.
Wow, so you've gone from conducting the orchestra to, like, composing the whole symphony
That's a great way to put it.
of the whole production process. So what kind of responsibilities come with that level of oversight?
You're thinking big picture. You're developing long-term plans for the whole department. You're managing budgets, collaborating with other departments at a much higher level.
High stakes.
It's a role with a lot of impact for sure.
It sounds like a natural fit for someone who's really passionate about the industry, driven to make their mark on the cars of tomorrow. But before we wrap up and let everyone hit the gas on their career journey,
Get those engines revving.
let's do a quick recap.
Sounds good.
We covered a lot of ground today. We talked about the day-to-day demands of being a motor vehicle assembly supervisor, the skills you need, the whole 9 yards. For someone who's just starting to think about this career path, what's the one key takeaway you want them to remember?
Ooh, that's a good one. You know, I'd say the biggest thing is this job, it's so much more than what people might think at first glance. It's a dynamic mix of leadership, quick thinking, you're always learning, always adapting to an industry that never slows down.
It's definitely not a boring job.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's not easy, that's for sure. But it's so rewarding for the right person, for someone who's up for the challenge.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh,
Now, one final thought to ponder as you're exploring this career path.
all right, let's hear it.
We talked about tech, those certifications, industry know-how, all that good stuff. But don't underestimate those soft skills.
So important.
Think about the human element here. Empathy, emotional intelligence, being able to navigate conflict smoothly.
Couldn't agree more.
These are qualities that are often overlooked, but they can make such a difference when you're leading a team, especially in a high-pressure environment like this.
Absolutely.
So, as you're revving your engines toward a career as a motor vehicle assembly supervisor,
Love it.
remember, it's not just about mastering those machines. It's about mastering the art of leading people.
Well said. Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, we'll bring this deep dive to a close. Until next time.